The last few years I've had very good success with growing the West Indian cucumber, which is of course a close relative to the actual cucumber, but it is still a different species. I've direct seeded this plant into the garden each year, and I collect the seeds at the end of each season. And in this video I want to go through the process of collecting the seeds. So when I start the process of seed collection for the West Indian cucumber, I begin with letting the fruits, I pick the biggest and best, and I let those mature on the vines, right? So I let them stay on the vines as long as possible until they start to turn like a yellowish, palish white color. And you really only need to save a handful of them or so, depending on how many you want to grow, because there are a pretty good number of seeds inside each fruit. And while these select few fruits are maturing on the vines, I make sure to monitor them. So I'll walk through the area, turn them over on the undersides. I'll look for any damage marks, or especially any type of bacterial or microbial damage, and those I might either compost, or if they're close enough I might just pick them right away and then harvest the seeds at that point. And even if they're starting to go bad, they might not necessarily be the best suited ones to save for seed collection too, so that might be a option to weigh in there too. Make sure that we are selecting the healthiest possible fruits to give us the best chances that we are selecting seeds that are the best adapted to the areas in which we are growing them. Then once they ripen up, or once we get fall frost and the plants are no longer going to grow at that point, I will harvest the fruit and I will bring them indoors. This year I actually let them age a little bit in the mudroom, so it got kind of cool in there, but never, of course it never went below freezing. And I actually let them age there for like a month and a half, 2 months or so, before I actually harvested the seed, right? And that gave a chance for some of the fruits to soften up even more, making the seed collection easier. But of course you also have to monitor for any rot damage, bacterial growth, or anything like that. Alright, so here is a Indian cucumber, West Indian cucumber, that has been aging in the mudroom for a month and a half, couple of months. It's kept pretty well. It's pretty rigid flesh. It's kind of dehydrated a little bit, like on the outside you can tell the wrinkle marks and stuff. These kind of looked like that originally, but then I brought them inside the kitchen and let them sit because originally I was going to collect the seeds from them, but ended up not, and waiting a few days. And so the warmer temperature in the kitchen than what it was in the mudroom really kind of made these soften up even more. So hopefully they're still okay. But this one came directly from the mudroom, where it was kind of like a natural refrigerator. So this one's preserved really well. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this open just lengthwise. Sure, man. Frame. Yeah. Alright. So you can see this is kind of what it looks like on the inside. It's really well preserved on the inside. On a lot of these, actually. We'll see what the ones from the kitchen look like in a minute, but but these are pretty good. It has a very rich cucumber smell, like any normal cucumber. This is a different species than a cucumber, but closely related. But yeah, and so there are all the little seeds. They are a little smaller, substantially smaller than normal cucumber seeds. I can actually show you. So these are cucumber seeds that have dried, and then just for comparison, so the seed size is substantially different. Alright. So what I'm going to do with this cucumber half now is I'm going to take a spoon. Let's see. I'm going to bring this plate over here, and so I'm going to go ahead and just move the spoon down a little bit and collect a bunch of the seeds. And you'll see sometimes they'll like clump up and stuff. You can kind of like flatten them out, give them some space and stuff. I don't worry about cleaning the seeds or anything like that. You definitely don't want to use like soap or any type of sterilizing agent or process, because that can kill a lot of the microbes in and around the seed. So right, and some of these microbes can be beneficial for plant growth and can be native to the soil ecology in your area. And then once I feel like I've gotten a good amount again out of this, I can cut it in quarters and take the other quarter and then scrape more, because there's a bunch more down in here, but off of this surface that is available to me presently, it's about all I'm going to get. Go ahead and quarter this. And once I've like scraped out some of the seeds, I actually have eaten some of the flesh of this Indian cucumber, and it tastes just like a cucumber. It's really good. Maybe a little sweeter actually, and haven't gotten food poisoning yet. So. So this might be a pretty cool method in some ways to actually preserve cucumbers with like a passive refrigeration process. So you're not using any extra energy or anything like that to preserve the cucumbers, and they're just naturally preserving within the skin of the fruit. Obviously the skin is not really edible at this point. It's, you know, pretty hard and dry, but like you can peel the skin off, or you can just like bite right into it, you know, and separate the flesh from the skin, that kind of thing. Very good. And then of course, once I collect these seeds, we're getting a pretty good number. And what I'll do is I'll put them under a fan or in a well ventilated area, right? Let them dry for a few days. Depends on the weather conditions. If it's going to be warmer and humid, might take longer to dry, and it would be probably better to use a fan to make that a higher quality process. But if it's going to be kind of colder and kind of drier, then it might just take like you know, a day to dry. And during that drying process, it's usually a good idea to move them around, like unstick them, just so that more air can get underneath and around the seeds, to help make sure that we are drying as many surfaces as possible. And just for the sake of the video, so that I can learn on camera to see what this one looks like from the that's been sitting in the kitchen in a warmer climate for a few days. Yeah, so it smells a little bit fermenty, almost more like it doesn't smell rotten, right? But it smells like if you've lacto-fermented cranberries, which I have in the past. That's really kind of what it smells like. So that's interesting. And this is a lot softer to work with than the other Indian cucumber. Seeds come out of there really easy. Oops. So this was another one that was in the kitchen. This one smelled a little bit different, right? This one actually smelled a little bit more rotten, but you know, I still collected some seeds from it because it was pretty much fine before. So we want to make sure that we are selecting the biggest, healthiest, best looking seeds from these fruits. At that point, I let them dry in the open air, like a well ventilated location, or if you have an area that's not super well ventilated, and or the seed material might be a little goopy, you can also use a fan to help expedite and improve the quality of that drying process. So once they're dry, and you'll be able to feel them, and make sure they're dry on like both sides and that kind of thing, right? There's no huge rush. But once they're dry, I'll store them in containers, and I'll make sure that they are in a dry place throughout the winter time, right? And then at that point, they are ready to get planted in the spring and summer season, and repeat the process all over again. So thank you so much for checking out this video on the seed collection of the West Indian cucumber. It's a plant that I really enjoy growing, and I like to interplant it with other plants as like a ground cover layer because it's smaller than the traditional cucumber, and it's also not quite as heavy, right? The fruits are smaller and lighter, so they don't like weigh a bunch of plants down or anything like that. So thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Take care.